Hello, my friends. This is Troy Brewer of Experiencing Real Life, heard every single day right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, can a car really go 15,000 miles without an oil change? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Tony Joe's here with me as he is every Friday to take your Car Corner questions. And I do have a number for you if you'd like to call in. We'd love to hear from you. 1-877-913-5357. I would especially like you to call in if you got a very, very difficult car case to figure out. Put him on the hot seat.
Thank you, Bob.
Sure. 1-877-913-5357. Well, Tony Joe, how's it going?
Well, it's going good, and it's the end of the week, and I know you appreciate this time of the week because it's almost over, and I really appreciate you. It's the end of the week for me, by the way, too. Not totally, but it's been a long week. I'm tired. I'm worn out, and I appreciate you challenging someone to call me in with the hardest question possible because I really don't feel like working my brain that hard. But
Oh, yeah? So what were you going to do for the next 30 minutes?
I was just going to kind of coast.
Yeah, you always have to pick up the slack. You know that gets old after a while.
I like to coast. I like the idea of coasting.
Chris wants us to do stump the chump.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's another way to say that too, isn't there? Stump the chump, something like that.
Yeah, I can think of a few things.
1-877-913-5357 is the number to call. Okay, Tony Joe, I'm going to start something new.
Okay.
Just a brand new off the top of my head.
Okay.
Because I seem to think that what goes on in your shop is a real good indication of what goes on in the economy. So, said another way, because you have a very steady clientele that I would imagine you have real conversations about their families, about their jobs, and people come in to see you, and they'll never go any other place, and that constant flow is always there, year in, year out, except when things slow down. So what I want to start asking you at the beginning of the program is, how is flow into the garage?
I have noticed a slowdown. Yes, you're trying to ask me, is it slow? Yeah, it's.
See, I've never
slower
heard you
than
say
normal. Let me say this. There are times during the year when it naturally slows down in this business, this industry, independent shops, dealerships, so forth. But it's unusual to slow down this time of the year. This is not a time when you normally see a slowdown in business. Thanksgiving's coming, people are getting ready for the holidays, and this is just not a normal time. But I have noticed a bit of a slowdown in the past, say, 2 weeks, I would say. I've noticed quite a bit of.
Well, do you realize we have hardly any evidence as to what's happening in the employment markets?
Mm-hmm.
How many people are getting laid off?
No numbers.
No numbers. In fact, this is the second Friday in a row that we have not received unemployment numbers from the government, because they shut that down. When they shut down the government, they shut down the Department of Labor and Statistics as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm curious as to what are other people seeing. Now, if you look at the other numbers that are really probably not as meaningful, they don't really show very good news as far as what's happening in the economy. And this, this government shutdown is really starting to wear on on a lot of things, a whole lot of things.
Yeah, especially the airline. Do you have to go anywhere for business?
No, I can't think of the last
they're
time.
gonna start slowing down
Oh yeah,
4%, and then another 4%.
they just I think they just announced 20% cut in flights that they shut down. That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
Hmm. Well, the trucking business, the trucking industry
Another
is,
indicator.
yeah. Well, the trucking industry is our backbone to our economy as far as getting goods delivered, and then the airline industry. So many of the people that I know travel. They not just for pleasure; they do it for their job. They have to.
Right.
Every once in a while, or more often than not, you'll call me and say, "Yeah, I'm going to be in Chicago this week." And I'm like, "Bob, what are you doing in Chicago?" And you won't tell me. Oh, it's business. So, who am I to judge? I don't know. I've got to be in L.A. this week. I got to be in Chicago. I'm like, mm-hmm.
I've never said that to you. You're making that up.
No, you have. You have said that.
I don't travel that much.
Well, but
hardly
when
travel.
you do, you call me and say, we're not going to do the show. We're going to do a repeat this weekend because I'm going to be in Chicago. And then one time you called me and said you're going to be in L.A.
I don't travel.
And
like
with the
that.
Lakers being in L.A., I didn't want to ask you, is this business or, what? But I didn't want to put you on the spot. So I just pretended I don't know nothing.
We've got
nothing.
oil to talk about, but
Okay.
before I talk about that, have you seen the Lakers play? They look awesome.
I told you I don't watch professional basketball.
I'm telling you, they look phenomenal. They only have 2 losses so far.
Pretty much for that reason right there. The Lakers.
1-877-913-5357 is the number to call. Do you mean to tell me
Can
if
I ask you one more thing before we get started?
Sure.
This is a financial question that I wanted to ask you. Always wanted to ask you this. Some of the athletes that are predominant athletes in the Canton Kershaw with the Dodgers. Okay, he's from Highland Park.
Mhm.
Matthew Stafford, you know him, famed quarterback.
I'm being set up. This is a joke.
No, he's from Highland Park.
Yes.
And Jordan Spieth, and the other one that should be right on the top of my just went away. Who's the top golfer in the anyway, he's from Highland Park as well. So, have you ever thought about doing a book on these guys, interviewing them and doing a book, calling it Rich to Richer or something like that? Like
No, the thought has
never thought of it?
has never crossed my mind. Shocking as that is, it has never crossed my mind.
Hey, it's a financial question. I just
Yeah,
wanted to ask you. Bring it up.
that's one that's just been in the back of your mind.
From rich to richer.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open and would love to talk to you today. I actually told you Joe would love to talk to you today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what determines that the rate at which you change your oil. And I got to thinking about this because I think there's a lot, as with anything, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think this one particular question, there's a lot of misinformation out there because some people will say, oh, well, the miles definitely tell you when to change the oil. Someone would tell you, and we're talking about the most important reason to change the oil. And miles or time, but really it's environmental. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, here are some of the environmental factors that can affect the interval that you change your oil. Number one, think about this for a minute, Bob. Do you know there are a lot of occupations where you can say, I need to change my engine oil every 4,000 miles or 5,000 miles. But do you know there actually are certain occupations where you may only have 1,000 miles between oil changes, but you could have, I can't even throw out a number, hundreds and hundreds of hours of idling, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in a delivery business, real estate business, a lot of vehicles that do different kinds of sales, you car is going to be, you're going to have a lot of hours, operating hours, maybe not necessarily at 60 miles an hour, but you can add a lot of operating hours and really not have a lot of miles. So do you keep going until you hit 4,000 miles or 5,000 miles to do your oil change? Most people do. They don't take into account the amount of operating hours that they just sit and idle all the time. So there's that factor to think about. Then weather. You know, weather can affect how long it takes to concentrate moisture inside the crankcase. So if you have a lot of rain and a lot of moist air all the time, and you really humid areas, well, you're going to concentrate a lot of moisture in the crankcase or inside the engine. Let's put it that way. And then that's going to affect the amount of lubricating properties that oil is going to be able to handle up to a certain point. Now, what does happen realistically is that water in the oil or condensation in the oil will evaporate at engine speed. Okay, engine's going to get hot. It's going to get up to 220 degrees, and the little bit of condensation that's in the oil will eventually just evaporate. But day after day, it takes its toll, and you may have to do oil changes a little more often than you thought. Just depends on a couple of environmental factors. Let's say, living here in Dallas, Texas, let's say you can have a car that might go 7,000 or 8,000 miles between oil changes if you lived in perfect environment, 72 degrees, San Diego, for instance. But in Dallas, Texas, we don't have a perfect environment. It's hot in the summer. It's 108 degrees, and you're sitting in traffic. And, you've got the air conditioner on, which even adds more heat under the hood. So heat is an enemy to anything on the automobile. It's an enemy to the engine simply because of the oil breakdown that occurs and the amount of hydrocarbons that are absorbed into the oil filter because of the excess heat under that hood. And sometimes you can't go as long between oil changes as you would, say, in a more friendly environment, something that the lows don't get down below 50 and the highs don't get above 70. I mean, that's kind of a nice thing for your car if you happen to live in that kind of an area.
So take a high mileage car, someone who's in their car all the time. That's a really interesting thing you said about idling time. I never really thought about that. Mm-hmm. In Texas, high mileage, what kind of oil change should you be doing mileage wise?
In this,
considering all the environment
here in this environment,
considering this environmental,
3,000 to 5,000.
Still 3,000 to 5,000.
3,000 to 5,000 is what I would recommend, even in this day and time with all the advancements in the oils and the different filters and all the new products out there. Still, what I see, Bob, is what I see in real life. I want you to understand that. You're asking my opinion, and my opinion is formulated from what I see on a day-to-day basis doing this every day of my life. And I'm going to tell you right now, 3,000 to 5,000 miles is when you should kind of target your oil change. And there's reasons for that if you want to elaborate on it, but I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but there's some good reasons to do it between 3,000 and 5,000.
This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open, and we'd love to hear from you today. 1-877-913-5357. So you hear quite a bit of marketing, and we'll call it marketing because that's what it is, maybe not good advice, that a particular car, particular brand of oil will go 15,000 miles and you can change every 15,000 miles. Mm-hmm. But you say, slow down, that's probably not the best of advice. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay. It's basically semantics, yes. There are oils out there, fully synthetic oils that are great. They are the best lubricating material that we've ever had. They're called fully synthetic. Now, Having said that, yeah, they're great. The oil is great. However, we still have to filter that oil. The engine develops naturally during the combustion process. It develops pollutants, hydrocarbons, and different materials that are absorbed into the oil. The oil is then carried through a filter on its journey of recycling over and over. The oil goes through an oil filter, which filters out the junk, and it lets cleaner oil out of the other end. And then it keeps recirculating through the same pattern over and over while the engine's running. There comes a point when that filter absorbs as much as it can handle. That's all it can take. It can't hold one more particle of sediment, dirt, or whatever contamination it has. At that point, there is a cartridge inside the oil filter that's spring-loaded, and the oil filter cartridge will lift up under spring pressure, and the oil will be circulated not through the filter anymore, but around the filter. That gives you absolutely no filtering effect at all. And that can happen whenever the oil filter gets full. Well, when does that happen? Well, about 3,000 to 5,000 miles, somewhere in there. So if you go longer than that, you may experience problems with, even though you're using the best oil money can buy, you're not really doing your engine any favor. So if you use synthetic and you want to go, one of them is advertised 25,000 miles.
No, I was just about to say,
So
this
if you're
really
gonna-
comes down on the companies producing the oil.
Right. So you think 25,000, wow, I'd like to do that. I'm just a regular person, and I'd like to go that long without having to be bothered changing the oil. But you're going to have to stop every 3,000 to 5,000 and change that filter. And when you change the filter, you're going to put a new one on. Then the old filter, when you throw it away, probably contains about at least half to a full quart of oil. So now when you check your oil, you replace the filter, you've done your due diligence. Now you got to put another quart of that really expensive oil in there to bring it back. And it's just kind of a waste of money to do it that way. It's beneficial in most cases, in almost every case that I can think of. Just change your oil 3,000 to 5,000 miles.
So if you're going to go 3,000 to 5,000 miles, you can pretty much pick the time of the year you're going to change your oil. What's probably the best time that you get the most benefit? Like, is it the fall? Is it the summer? After summer's over? After the heat's come and gone? When's a good time?
Well, it doesn't.
There's really no advantage.
No
to that.
advantage to time, but the average driver drives 15,000 a year. So you're going to generally change your oil 3 times in a year.
I would be willing. Of course, you would know this better than I would, but I would be willing to bet that only happens a very small percentage of the time. Changing the oil that much.
Well,
right?
No, people do let it go. I have to admit, yeah. People are a little lackadaisical on getting their oil changed on time. But if you think about the damage that can be done to the inside of the engine, it is the cheapest insurance you can have if you want to keep your car a long time. Oil changes don't cost much, and it's not that big of a deal. It's an inconvenience. But if you knew what a mechanic knew, and I'm not the only one, there's a lot of guys out there that know this. If you understood the goodness that you were doing by changing the oil on time, as opposed to the damage that you can probably going to do not changing it on time, it would mean the whole world to everybody. Everybody would do it on time.
So by hearing that makes me think, if you are considering buying a pre-owned car, and it had any outrageous miles on it at all, I mean more than it should, more than average, you would really be well served if you walked away if you didn't have they didn't have the records.
Right. See, here's the biggest thing is, do you have paperwork on that car? If you have the records, the maintenance records, that can give you a really good feeling or a really bad feeling.
And I don't think
to buy that car.
This is just kind of off the top of my head, but I don't think that a car dealer goes, boy, I got this pre-owned car in, and it doesn't have the records, or it does have the records, I'm going to price accordingly. I don't think that they're not going to go.
No,
and you just have to pop open the glove box to probably see that the records are in there. right?
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot of times the records are in there if you look for them, but in some cases the records are online. If they
that will show up actually on Carfax quite a bit as well if the company's reporting it. If it's
if
but
the
maybe if
dealer, yeah,
dealership.
let's say you go to the dealer all the time for everything. Well, if the
You don't see
dealer,
that in independent shops, do you?
well, no, but it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is, if you go to the dealer all the time, they have a record on that VIN number and everything that was ever done to it. So that's another way you can find out. You wouldn't have to have the paperwork, but you could still get the reference information online or through the dealership or some other form of record keeping that may not be printout in the glove compartment. So what I tell people is always keep your records. Keep your record of everything, including oil changes, and keep a file on it because it'll bring more for your car when you trade it in or try to sell it. When you've decided you don't want the car anymore, you'll get, in my opinion, the records on a car bring another $1,000 to that car's value.
Easily.
Yeah, sure.
So you've said in the past that you never want to go from conventional oil. We almost got to talk about this last week, but we didn't get to it. But let me go through this question. So you've always said you don't want to change from conventional oil to synthetic oil. But is it okay to go from synthetic oil to conventional oil if you wanted to? And kind of what are the pros and cons of doing that? Maybe save some money, right?
Well, take an example. Let's say the car came brand new off the showroom floor with fully synthetic oil, and that's what you've been using when you take it in for an oil change. Now, that's okay. You can continue to do that. But if you really look at the price of synthetic oil, fully synthetic oil, versus the price of a synthetic blend, you might want to drop your using fully synthetic all the time and go to a synthetic blend. You can do that. It saves you quite a bit of money on an oil change. But you have to realize when your car gets to be, say you bought a car, it's got 100,000 miles on it, and you don't know much about the car, and you think, I'm really going to take good care of this car, starting with full synthetic oil. I'm going to use the best oil money can buy. That is a mistake. You do not want to go from conventional or a synthetic blend and then try to use fully synthetic oil. That is a no-no. You don't want to do that. You can cause problems doing that. And just to be really elementary, just to open it up, just really elementary without a bunch of things that advantages you'll have. Fully synthetic oil is very highly detergent. It will wash away particles of varnish and sludge that have built up in critical little corners and little areas of the crankcase that prevents oil from leaking. And if you wash all that stuff away, you may end up with some very expensive oil leaks that are now going to have to be repaired. So it's best to just not go from a synthetic blend or conventional oil after your car gets 100,000 miles on it and then think you're going to take really good care of it now, so you're going to start using full synthetic. That's a bad thing to do. It's a bad
because
decision.
they got the hybrid, don't they? The mixture of two.
Yes.
Both.
You've got conventional oil, which we call it organic. It's
right.
regular oil that we've always had. It's the same kind of oil we had in the 70s. Then you have a synthetic blend, which is a
blend is the word I was looking for.
Of conventional and fully synthetic made in the lab oil.
So do you think out of all the brands types that you could put in your car, do you think the blend is the best way to go?
I do.
I mean, it just makes sense. It's kind of like the hybrid vehicles.
Right.
Probably the best of both worlds.
It's the best of both worlds. It's not as expensive, and everybody can use it in their car. And I recommend that. I recommend using a little bit of prudent thought when you're picking out oil, how much, my issue with fully synthetic, we described earlier in the program, you still have to change the filter, go through the inconvenience, and probably add a quart of oil when you're done. So why do all that? Go to a synthetic blend, change it every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, and that will be satisfactory for 99.9% of the people that drive a car.
Can you change from oil to the blend? Excuse me, the conventional oil
to synthetic blend?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, you can do that.
Without any problem.
Yeah,
but you
it
still
won't-
want to go from that to fully synthetic.
Yeah, you don't want to go to fully synthetic.
Okay.
If you use fully synthetic, you use it from the day you bought the car on the showroom floor, all the way through its life.
This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.